Hello, coaches. Today we're going to explore the fundamental thing every business needs to have to be able to create success. What are we talking about? Rapport. When you're able to create a sense of trust and rapport with the client that you're working with, they're able to drop down their walls and barriers and be able to explore the deep vulnerabilities that have been holding them back. With that in place, you're able to then make a really big impact and transformation in their life. And so there's that win-win between you and the client. They come away with that transformation, and you've come away with that reputation and the testimonials that you are incredible at what you do. Without rapport, it's sense of mistrust, guardedness. So we need to get this right. Today, we're going to look at the 6 things that you can do to be able to master this skill. So let's get started. When you think back to a time of working with a coach or a trainer or a mentor, what did they do to be able to create that instant connection? Our unconscious mind likes what is safe and what is familiar. So anything that you can do to be able to bridge that gap between stranger and a threat to being trustworthy and familiar will instantly create that sense of rapport and that likability. In the NLP world, we understand that people perceive their worlds differently. And so some people are more visual, some people are more feeling based, some people are more auditory, and some people are more AD and criteria based. When you recognize this in the other person, you can start to match and mirror how they perceive the world so you become familiar. And again, signaling to the unconscious mind that you're safe. If you think back to a time where there was no rapport, I want you to think about how tense and frustrating that can be when you're not feeling heard, not feeling considered, and how that's just sort of spiraled into chaos. I'm sure that that job, that outcome was incredibly difficult to create when people are on different pages. It's fascinating when you sit at a cafe or a restaurant and start people watching, and you can see how people are demonstrating their sense of rapport with somebody. Their gestures are going to be the same. They're going to laugh at the same things. They're going to sit in a familiar, similar manner. There's this instant match and mirroring. And it's not like they're being mimes and like clowns, but their unconscious mind, just like a child, a mother and child mirroring each other, we naturally want to be like the other person, what is familiar. Whereas if there is a lack of rapport, then our unconscious mind is going to signal to the other person that there is tension here. And in fact, if you're somebody who studies body language, you'll often see that the person who wants out, their feet will be directed towards the door. As quick as I can get out of this tension, the better. So unless you actually wanted to unless you want to signal to the other person that you've had enough, then, then you can use either skill set to either become familiar to the other person or demonstrate, yeah, this two-way communication is not working. So as I've already said, people who are in authentic rapport, their body language will be the same. Their gestures will be similar. Their nods will be similar. The pace at which they speak will be similar. And the way that they giggle at the same time will be similar. Knowing visual people often speak quite quickly, they will speak because there's 1,000 words to describe the pictures in their head, and they'll start talking really, 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 really fast and start gesturing with their hands. And to the kinesthetic person who may speak a little bit slower, want to feel more anchored in their body, can actually feel a sense of pressure or urgency when there is that miscommunication. So what the visual person needs to do is to slow down, and the kinesthetic person can consider speeding up to be able to match and mirror each other there. So as I've already said, when people are in fake rapport, and the empath in me hates that, this is when you are in your head thinking about what you can do to have that connection. And because instead of being in that natural flow and that unconscious sort of familiarity, being in your head, you will disconnect that authentic connection very, very quickly. So do not become like a mime or a clown when you're working with the client and thinking, okay, Claire said we need to have trust and rapport and build familiarity and match and mirror. Like, what do I need to do? just be you. Because your unconscious mind already knows how to do this. So what can you do to be able to create that rapport and build trust? For me, I always look to the person that's inquiring about coaching, and I look to see, what do I like about this person and what potential can I see in them? Anytime I just drop my energy and hear the problems that they're in, often it can feel quite heavy and dense. And yes, we need to be able to have respect for the position that they're in, that they're feeling stuck and everything's hard. But being able to hold on to the potential of who they can become, already starts the dance and can start to lead them out of that heaviness and build that sense of trust and safety that they can actually move out of the stuckness into something so much greater. I think it's so lovely when, I've had friends say to me when I've been in dark moments of my life, and it's like, I believe in you, Claire. You may not believe in yourself right now, but I'll do the believing for you. I'm here when you're ready. And it's sort of like, okay. So as this slide says, if you're a coach and wanting to build that rapport, look for the potential in that client, look for what you like in them. And, if you're in the coaching industry, I would say just be you. Now, if we were in the training room, this is when I'd say, okay, stop, look around and notice, even on Zoom, who is sitting the same, who's leaning back, who's crossing their arms, who's holding a drink. The rapport happens on Zoom. It happens in person. The people who the people who like each other will start to match and mirror each other. And it's quite fascinating in the training room to see, there'll be, the group of people fiddling with their hair or who's taking a sip of coffee at the same time. And in fact, you can play with that if you want to know who's in the lead and take a sip of your drink and then notice very quickly who's thirsty after you've prompted that. So when we seek to create authentic rapport, not that fake rapport, we do what we can to become like them. In NLP, we call that match and mirror. And what we can do within the 6 keys of rapport is to be able to match and mirror somebody's modalities. Are they visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or AD? We can match and mirror their physiology, how they're sitting. We can match and mirror their voice and the language and the predicates that they use. We can match and mirror their breathing. We can match and mirror the chunks of information that they provide in their sentences. And we can also match and mirror their common experiences. So I'm going to dive in a little deeper into this. So the modality, as I've already expressed to you, recognizing somebody's representational system and listening out for the predicates that they use to mirror that back to them. So noticing, are they using words like hear, feel, understand, or see? And again, being able to use the words that they're using. As a business example, let's say that I have a blank yard that looks lifeless and uninviting. I bring a tradesperson into the place and I say to the tradesperson, I just want my garden to be beautiful and welcoming. Now, that clever business person can hear that the beauty and the invitation, the feeling about what I want from this garden is really important. And if that tradesperson can match and mirror those words back to me, then I'm more likely to hand over my money very quickly. It's like, yes, great, you're familiar, we're on the same page. So if he had said something like, I see your point, I can transform your yard so it's not drab anymore, but a beautiful looking paradise that you want to show off to friends and family, how would that look to you? And immediately that visual and feeling person is like, yep, let's get started. Compared to a tradesperson who starts, gibbering off numbers and okay, well, it's 3.4, blah, 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 and it's going to be, 6 meters down, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, no, I'm not interested in the criteria. I just want to know if you can see the picture that I'm trying to create. Physiology. So this is being able to communicate in the way that somebody else moves, their posture and their facial expressions. So when we replicate the physical actions of another, such as their hand movements, their posture, their facial expressions, even their blink rate, it can undeniably send that message to their unconscious mind that we are familiar. And it's like, yep, it's an important point here that timing is everything. You do not want to become that mime and absolutely, mirror them to the exact motion that they're doing. But if somebody is like crossing their arms while they're thinking about something, then you can actually cross your legs, even if it's under the table, to match and mirror their physiology. If somebody, if you're hanging out with a teenager, I've got 4 of those at the moment, and they're just sort of laying back on the couch, coming in quite stern, upright, is going to sense off an alert in our unconscious mind. But if you're going to be more casual in that coaching situation with a teenager, going to slob over on the desk a little bit, then you start to gain the lead and you can start to match and mirror them so that they open up. So if you move instantly, or sorry, if they move and you move instantly, immediately after them, they will notice that you're like becoming, it's like a mime, as I've said, and it's going to jolt their unconscious mind. So don't do that. So my question to you is, what environments would cause you to change your physiology? Is it time to sort of sit back and lounge? Or are you in an environment where poise and posture are incredibly looked upon? Okay, number 3, their voice. Communicate using similar phrases, fast or slow, volume or tempo. So the rhythm in which somebody speaks. When you recognize if somebody is speaking quite quickly and you want to match a mirror, then you need to speed up your pace in which you are communicating. And alternatively, if they are speaking a lot more slower, taking deeper breaths, then give yourself permission to do that too. Be mindful that if you've got somebody in front of you who has an accent, do not start to mirror their accent back at them. And in fact, I'd find that quite disrespectful or funny. So you need to be really careful that breathing. This is me and my daughter about 15 odd years ago, this time of recording. And so this one is about bringing your energy to alignment and to match the other person. Notice where they're breathing from. Is it, deeper breaths right into their belly? Or is it really short breaths because they're more visual? In a professional setting, you can really get a sense of how somebody is breathing and being able to match and mirror that, especially in a hypnotic space. If you're hypnotizing somebody and you want them to take in that deep breath and slow things down, then you can use your breath to be able to create that sense of safety and rapport for them to go into a trance. Now, in a non-professional environment, if you're there with your partner in a sensual moment, it can become quite intimate to be able to match your partner's breath and to notice that magic between the two of you. So my question to you is, have you ever held a baby in your arms? And did you notice how quickly you were to match their breathing rate? Because you, my friend, are in rapport in that moment. You can breathe at the same rate from the same location. And this is that really subtle way to be able to have that impact and that rapport, and almost like creating that sense of empathy between the two of you. So what situations would cause you to change your breathing to match and mirror? Alrighty, so number 5, chunks of information. If you're NLP trained, you know about parts integration, you know about the chunks of information. Is somebody big picture or is somebody more so in the detail? And so recognizing the way that somebody is communicating and describing what they're talking about, are they using big picture vague language, or are they gone into the specifics and the detail? Be able to match that chunk of information will be able to create rapport. So as I've already said, recognizing chunk size in people's language and mirroring that the same size back to them is an effective way to build rapport. Some people will naturally speak in detail and they will give you all the specific steps about how they feel to describe every little minute. And other people will talk to you about the bigger picture, their ideas, their concepts on what they want to create. So coaching that client, okay, what's the big picture? What's this session about? And then taking the time to drill down is very important. versus somebody who's speaking in detail and you've got to understand this is the problem and they said this and da 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 da. And then being able to draw them up to the big picture, or what's the purpose of this? What do they want to create? And then the last one here for the 6 keys of rapport is to recognize common experiences. As I said at the beginning, people like what is familiar. So if there is any opportunity for you to say, me too, yes, that's like me, then absolutely express that. So being able to match other people's similar interests, using that in a metaphor. If they like fishing, then bring in all of your fishing scenarios. If they like, sports, bringing in all of that. If they like knitting and everything in between. By matching other people's similar interests, rapport is built very quickly, matching their hobbies, their backgrounds, their beliefs, anything that we stereotypically determine is rapport here. So this is what usually builds rapport when we first begin, getting to know somebody, and it's sort of like, just what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What do you do as a job? Anytime somebody starts saying like, oh wow, yeah, me too, then rapport is being built, that sense of trust. We've got something in common that we can talk about. And so if we were in the NLP training room, I would be looking around the group and saying, okay, so what experiences do we share in this NLP training? Typically, I work with empaths, wellness professionals, gentle souls. And so there's a common thread within people exploring shadow work or healing, the metaphysical, the soul's journey, all of that yummy fun stuff. And it's like, yep, this group definitely has rapport. So this concludes my experience here of building trust and rapport. I would encourage you to be able to work out the best way for you to bridge that gap between stranger and familiar so that your clients can lean in and get the most out of your sessions. I'll talk to you later.